There. So, well, good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for coming to our second Director's Chat of the year. Last month, we kicked off our camping season. And I guess the first thing I want to say is as we move through this process, we are gaining more and more information, and we can be more and more specific. And that'll take us right up until our last Director's Chat in May, when we should have all of the answers, and we'll keep trying to communicate the answers as they formulate. The questions that we get asked at each of these is good. We try to make sure that we're answering those during the next 30-day period before. Frozen up. There we go. Everybody froze for a second. We're having lots of technical difficulties. Must be the snow gremlins or something tonight. But one of the questions that we never have until right about this time every year is, what's it going to cost to go to camp this year? And we don't have that information until we've done our job and made recommendations to the executive board, and they get to vote on the council budget for the year. And a big piece of the council budget is the camp budget, summer camp budget. So that work has been done, and the executive board gave us a thumbs up on Wednesday night of this past week. So we have that information for you tonight. So I'm going to share that with you, and I'm going to do something a little bit different, something I did last year. I want everybody to understand how we go about setting fees. We just don't pull a number out of the air and run with it and give it to you and say, here, you're stuck with it. We spent, starting in August, we started as the camp directors, Allison, myself, Brennan and Garrett. We've been sitting down since camp closed, working on 2023 season. So some of the answers that we're formulating have come out of our experience in 2022. I'm going to share this with you. Bear with me one second here, if you will. Pull this up with you for you. And all right. So I assume everybody can see that. Thumbs up. Great. So I want to talk to you about how we formulate, came up with our camp fees for this year, what goes into it. I'll give you a pretty good basic understanding of how that all works. And then I want to just talk to you about the value of camping. And I know most of you on this call tonight already understand the value of summer camp, but it always is a good reminder for us. So just as background, first, the goal of the Daniel Webster Council in terms of its summer camp is to be the camps of choice, both within and outside of Daniel Webster Council, and to be the future of Cub Scouts and Scouts BSA camping in northern New England. There are a lot of camps struggling, particularly in the past 2 or 3 years since COVID hit. A lot of camps are finding themselves in financial difficulties where they've either closed or they've significantly cut back on their programming. So it's a challenge for all camps everywhere. There's a lot of financial pressures, as I just mentioned. COVID, we all know what's going on with increasing costs. We deal with that in terms of salaries, food, all of our program supplies, insurance, utilities, all of those things are financial pressures on our camping. Increasingly, we're seeing more standards that we have to comply with in terms of health and safety standards and competition as well. We deal with fixed costs and variable costs. Our fixed costs are those things that we have to deal with whether or not we have kids in camp. The variable costs are the costs associated with each of the people who are in camp. So we look at those as isolated pieces of the entire puzzle, and we can price accordingly. Our camps run a few few weeks out of the year. GSR is our longest running camp. That's an 8-week season. The other 40, whatever it is, 44 weeks, if I did my math right. You know, the camps are sitting there and we need to maintain them. We need to pay utilities year round. We pay our rangers. So that's one of the biggest pressures on camps. It's a very short season, and we have to cover those costs. So camps are coping by reducing their programming, they're shortening seasons, and many times they're deferring maintenance. And Daniel Webster Council, we continue to offer good program, good solid quality programming. We have not cut back on our programming things. We're adjusting seasons to reflect unit and family demand. Our attendance fluctuates, and we're trying to set our seasons accordingly. And we continue to invest highly in our programs and properties. We surely could do better, but we're still doing that and trying not to delay, you know, maintenance. And we're trying to take care of our properties to make sure that they're both safe environments and a pleasure to be in. One of the things that we do recognize, and we've taken an approach to make sure that we are doing this. The fees that we collect have to reflect the true cost of operations. In the past, that hasn't always been the case for camps. They've gotten by on a wing and a prayer, but increasingly, our fees are reflecting the true cost of operations. And I think we're sort of leaders in that. And there's some other camps that are starting to catch up with us on that. We look at our competition. Our competition is from the obvious places and some not so obvious. Obviously, other scout camps. We look to them. They look to us, and we look to them. What are you guys doing, and what should we be doing? We look at private camps the same way. What are private camps doing? And we also compete with other activities that are attractive to kids, year-round sports, day camps, skills day camps, you know, baseball camp, soccer camp. Kids are taking on summer jobs. So those activities tend to distract some of our potential campers from attending camps. We also look at our internal competition, rising prices and perceptions of high prices. Sometimes discourage maybe even unit leaders from recommending camp. So we're trying to overcome those things. So that's some background on what we consider starting in August when we start putting our budget together. What are people doing? So what's our pricing strategy? First, we do a competitive and market analysis, which I just mentioned. It's sort of informal. We keep our ears to the ground, and we hear things. We talk to people, so we have a pretty good understanding of what the market looks like. We're also members of the American Camping Society or Association, so we know what other camps are doing and what they're looking at. We then do an internal cost structure analysis. We look at our seasonal and year-round operations. We look for efficiencies in an attempt to start managing our expenses closely. And then lastly, we set our fees to sustainably support operations and goals. So we project expenses based upon our 22 actuals, and we look at the economy, what it's doing, and we make projections based on what we think is going to be happening next summer. Then we work backwards and we project the revenues. How can our revenues meet the expectations of our expenses? And then we set fees to meet those revenue needs. We're also looking at joint marketing opportunities, and we've been doing this for a couple of years. So we're working with councils without their own camps. One of the things that we do year round in both in the council and in the summer camp program as we balance expense management and the quality of the camp experience. So for our program, we look to keep our program offerings as diverse and wide as possible so that it's attractive. Our supplies budgets necessarily have to meet the needs of our program areas, but we also have to balance that with the increasing cost of those supplies. And we're continuously looking at programs, thinking of new things that we can do, and eliminating those things that don't provide any return on our investment, simply because maybe kids aren't interested in that kind of programming anymore. We have some staffing challenges, as all employers do. It continues this year. I don't see it lightening up anytime soon, but we are challenged in the recruitment of staffing, and we're challenged by how much we pay our staff. We're trying to do some different things in both of those areas to try to attract quality staff people, and enough of them. So we're getting there, and we're getting better at both of those things, I think. So I'm often asked, you know, what's the council doing to help us? How can we get more kids to camp? Well, we've got a couple of different things. Again, this year, these haven't changed really from last year's opportunities, but adventure cards give you a discount, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And we have an early bird discount, so if you get signed up and paid early enough, you can experience up to $70 of discounts. We have product sales opportunities in the councils, popcorn sales, camp cards. There's a couple things on here that are not on here. We have maple syrup and pancakes. There's the hike-a-thons. So there are opportunities for scouts to help earn their own way into camp. We do offer camp scholarships every year. That's not changing. And then council subsidies. The council holds events during the course of the year to raise money to help offset some of the expenses of summer camp. And we also draw from the endowment every year, something that some people may not know, but we draw from our endowment every year to support summer camp and council operations. And then individual units can provide financial help to their scouts through unit fundraising. A lot of this time of year, we know of a lot of units who are selling Christmas trees or wreaths, doing those kind of things, and they hold pancake breakfasts and those kinds of things. So units can also help offset some of the expense at the scout level for camp. So here's the camp fees. Camp Carpenter first. The full fee this year is $600. With the early bird discount, it's $580. With just the adventure card, it goes to $550. And if you take advantage of both the adventure card and the early bird discount, it's $530. GSR, the fee is $620. Early bird discount, it's $20 off that, so it's $600. Adventure card is $50 off the $620 for $570. If you take advantage of both, GSR fee is $550. Granite Base Camp Day Camp is $330. There's no early bird discount there, but adventure card brings that cost down to $280. Adults, we give each unit going to camp 2 free adults. Additional adults pay essentially for their food. That's what it is. So Camp Carpenter, the fee for an adult this year is at $230, and at GSR it's $275. NYLT, we actually reduced the fee this year for NYLT. The full fee there is $520. Normally it would be the $620. It's same as the camp fee because it's the first week of Camp Bell. So we've reduced that fee by $100. The early bird discount again is $500. Adventure card discounts $470 and fully discounted is $450. One of the changes there is that youth staff for NYLT, that's been free in the past. This year it will cost youth staff member $100. But hopefully we can keep that. That's always a high demand program, and we want to make sure that we're getting as many kids trained up as possible. So we've reduced that fee, and hopefully we can maintain a full program there. So this is the part I told you, everybody on this, most of the people on this call don't really need this because you already understand the value of camp. But let me just go over a couple of bullet points just to refresh your memory. Camp offers extensive program opportunities, both at GSR and at Camp Carpenter. And there's a list of things there, and you know, if you've been to either one, you know them. But one of the big ones, I think, one of the big advantages of going to camp for a camper is you build lifelong memories. If you talk to anybody who went to camp as a kid, they remember it. And that's a pretty important thing. So getting them to start building those memories early is awesome. And they can learn responsibility. For overnight camp, they may be, it's particularly GSR, they're away from their parents for a week. They learn some independence. And they also can help themselves and learn how to pay their own way if they want to share in the cost of sending themselves to camp. And there are opportunities for doing that. Going to camp can lead to some staff opportunities. And when you're on camp staff, either at Carpenter or GSR, you learn leadership skills. You're in front of your peers, and you're leading them. And that's major on the path towards Eagle. They gain independence. They become independent thinkers. And this is my favorite play here. Play where you work and work where you play. If they can do that for the rest of their lives, they've done something good. Being on the staff is a visual and physical reminder of being part of something bigger, part of the Scout organization, and it's just for many youth being a part of staff. It builds camaraderie. They learn from each other, and it's just a way to be part of something bigger than themselves, individual. So they get exposed to other scouts and units at dining halls, merit badge program areas, campfires, and reminds us what we have in common. And that's what brings us together. One of the questions I hear all the time, we've heard a lot about the bankruptcy the last couple of years. That's effectively been settled. All of the Daniel Webster Council money that will be put into the fund has been set aside. I can tell you undoubtedly that no camp fee money is or never will be used for that settlement. It all came from a different place. The settlement payments will not affect either the Daniel Webster Council itself or the support that the Daniel Webster Council gives to the camps. The Daniel Webster Council is in a strong financial position, and it remains that way. And it will not affect camps or Daniel Webster Council operations. The council will continue to invest in camps. So we can take that off the table. I know it's been a question over the past couple of years. I was recently asked about it again, but I will tell you that the bankruptcy has been a totally separate thing, and we are lucky in the Daniel Webster Council that it has absolutely no effect on any of us or any of the things that we're trying to do. So what can you do through all of this as unit leaders? If you're asked about, how fees, why is it so expensive to go to camp? Now you have a little bit of an understanding about what it is that we're trying to do. We're trying to keep quality programming at the least amount of fees. I always talk value rather than price. It's hard to put a value on the camp experience. If you've ever been to camp, you know that it's a valuable thing, and it's not just about price all the time. As a unit leader, the impact of camp attendance on retention can't be understated. Kids who go to camp stay in Scouts far longer than the ones who don't. And units who go to camp are in far better shape than the ones who don't go to camp. So don't assume that just because the fees may seem high to you, don't assume that about anybody else. And again, if somebody says the fees are too high, talk about the value of camping, not just, oh yeah, I agree the fees are too high. So accept the challenge to get to camp, look for some solutions and be a leader. And so with that, I will be quiet and I will answer any questions that somebody may have. Be happy to do that.
So we've had a couple of questions in the chat.
Okay.
One of the questions was, will the adventure card remain the same at $48? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
And the new group sales, there will be a group sales module, or part of the group sales module is to be able to buy those on your own without having to send them to me. So please don't send me your rosters with your checks. You'll be able to do it online on your own. The other question we've had is, will there be a tiger pair option? Is an adult required to attend with each tiger? Yes, an adult is required. We did not publish that fee. And so we will get back to you with that. So those are the two questions we've had. So, and then somebody asked about the council website being down. I am not sure. I have not checked it, but I can do that now that I've answered some questions.
I tried to go on it, Allison, it was down.
Yeah, okay. So I doubt that that's our Zoom issue, but I guess it's down. So talking about group sales and the group sales, when do we get to see what's on the camp cards for this year? Charlene, my guess would be, I know her goal is to have the sale open by the end or by the middle of February, I want to say. She and I just met on that the other day. It might be actually earlier in February. They are struggling to find a vendor up north that would be viable, that is one. So I know one of the ones we've had for a long time is Shaw's, but there aren't a lot of Shaw's in the northern part of the state. And so they're trying to make sure that there are vendors on that card that everybody can benefit from. So it's worth it for everyone. Thanks, Brendan. So I did meet with Bianca this week, and we are going to, we worked better this year to make sure that our notes that her dates and our dates lined up. And so if you are going to try to earn a free week of camp with camp cards, that will be March 15th, because we're going to make our deposits for camp due probably 10 days later, March 25th. So you're going to want to be able to sell your camp cards by March 15th. Oh, I apologize. February 1st will be the opening day for camp card sales. And then you will have you'll be able to sell after May 18th, after May 10th rather, but May 10th will be the cutoff for our side of it, if that makes sense, because we have to settle up camp from before we get into camp. And we learned the hard way that if we don't settle up camp before we get into camp, then it doesn't get settled. So that's by May 10th, you'll have to finish selling camp cards in order to apply that towards your camp fees. You can keep selling them and you'll still get your commissions, but they won't be able to be applied toward camp fees after May 10th or after our final payment is due. For Phil, I missed the new fees associated for NYLT. He mentioned something about $100 fee for who, etc. And did you just say early registration deadline? So yes, the early registration deadline is going to be between March 15th and March 31st. We have not chosen an exact deadline on that, John. And then it will be $100 for NYLT staff to youth staff to participate. And that's in order to keep the participant fee a little bit lower, but to cover the cost of expenses for youth staff.
It's basically it's covering partly.
Yeah, it doesn't even cover the whole fee.
So partly. I also want to just mention, I talked briefly about camp scholarships. We're going to be doing that earlier this year, so it'll help units better plan and prepare. So that should, the application should be available sometime in January, probably early January, early to mid-January. And there will be an earlier cutoff this year for applications for that. That will probably coincide roughly with maybe even a little bit earlier than the early bird discount date. But details to follow on that. We're working on that right now. But it will be done earlier so that units have a chance to plan a little bit better.
So while Phil was talking, we were able to discover that we are unable to create breakout rooms tonight. So we're going to have, if there aren't any further questions about the overall, we're going to have Drew go first because he doesn't have a ton to talk about. And then we'll have Brett go first. So we're going to do GSR first and then Camp Carpenter. So if you only need to hear GSR, you're going to get to hop off quicker. If you need to hear GSR, if you need to hear both or you need to hear Camp Carpenter, I ask that you just be a little bit patient, and I apologize. I promise to fix it for January.
Before we turn it over to Drew, I just want to say one last thing. I want to thank the camp directors and Brendan and Garrett and Allison for the work that they've been doing. They have been huge advocates for units and campers in our camps in trying to keep costs as low as possible and program quality as high as possible. So it's been, it has taken a lot of work, a lot of time from those folks. So I thank them, and if you get a chance, you can thank them as well because they deserve it. So that's all I have.
Awesome. Good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, again, I'm Drew Wadlewski. I'm the reservation director at Griswold Scout Reservation. I got a few things to go over real quick, and then we will be done. And then Brett will jump on. Things that are new to camp right now, for those of you that missed out last year, last month, this past weekend, we got about 12 inches of some heavy packed snow and dropped, some trees fell. So we ended up closing the reservation for the weekend in order to get those things out. Roads were collapsed, not collapsed, but were trees across them, heavy snow everywhere. But I believe the reservation was open as of 8 o'clock this morning. So Brian and the rest of those folks who are helping out the reservation, getting it all open for everybody who is going snowshoeing and snowmobiling and everything else that they're doing now. So that's an excellent thing that was going on. Tree work is still on process. It will continually be processed at GSR for God knows how many years, but we're still working on trees. I know we have probably another 70 cord of wood to split in the springtime. So we will have plenty of firewood for the off season and the on season. Off-season camping is still available. You can go online through the council website to find out what's available for facilities and campsites to camp in the off-season. If anybody is interested in becoming a camp master, as someone who knows GSR and would like to come in and introduce themselves and check units in, please let myself or Garrett know, and we will put you in direct contact with the camp master corps. So going on to GSR. Hidden Valley, we know will stay the same as it did last year with 8 weeks of programming. You all got the prices tonight, which we got them a little bit earlier. We did not think we'd have them for tonight, but we are glad that we have them now. We'll have the guides out by January 1st or January 2nd. So again, program guides, leaders guides will be out by January 1 or January 2 for both Hidden Valley and Camp Bell. Prerequisite guide will come out about February 1st. We're just trying to redo the entire prerequisite guide and make sure that it fits in and works out with the advancement system that we have that Taiwan's working on with us continually, just to make that streamline a little bit easier for you guys coming into camp with prerequisites that the kids have already done. So that's exciting that we're going to do. We do have the specialty weeks. One was just added and we have it secured now. We will have a scuba week back at GSR. That will be week 7. We do not have a price on that yet, but we do have a week of scuba, which is pretty cool. We have not had scuba at GSR. I've been there for 8 years. We have not had it since before that. So it's almost 10 years since we've had scuba at GSR. And I think it's going to be pretty exciting to be able to get some scouts scuba certified and do that program at camp again. We will also have our horse adventure week, where it's a week of horseback riding and working with the horses. We'll also have some type of a heavy metal STEM week, where they'll be working with the forges and blacksmithing and welding and everything else, where they'll be building a bunch of stuff. And then we will have another specialty week having to do with water, sailing, kayaking, canoeing, all the things that the kids love to do in the water. So stand by, we'll have a bunch more information at that. They'll be in the leaders guides, and what weeks they are. Someone asked what week 7 is. I believe
August 7th through the 12th,
there you go.
or August 6th to the 13th, actually, but
August 6th to the 13th. Thank you, Allison. Camp Bell will be open weeks 2 through 5 like it was last year. Same exact thing. Some things that we're changing at Bell this year is we will be changing the entire menu. So the menu will finally change at Bell. I know we haven't changed it in a long time. Programs will stay the same. I know that Brian was working up at the ranges to make them better for us up at Bell this past a few weeks ago. So things will just continue to work at Bell as possible. NYLT we know is week 1. We know how important National Youth Leadership Training is for our scouts. Please try to sign them up as fast as possible. That course does get filled up pretty quick. And we're looking to have that course filled up again. With that, I'm going to have Garrett put both of mine and his emails in the chat. So that this way we can get things going. And if you have any questions for us, we can get right back to you. Will we have COPE this year? Yes, we will. COPE is we are continuing having that conversation. We have a couple of people that are in line for staffing. Staffing is something else that we're doing, but COPE will keep going forward. Is GSR still on track to lead the guides out by January 1st? Yes, we will. So those are the 2 things. So zip line, yes, but I believe the zip line's good. It's just the tower that we need some. That whole lower end of COPE needs to have some attention done to it, and we already have a plan in place for it. So we're hoping to have the full COPE course this summer.
Great.
And with that, everybody, again, happy Hanukkah to all those that celebrate. I want to wish you all Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Happy Kwanzaa, anything that you celebrate, happy holidays from GSR, and we will see you all in January.
thank you, Drew. Any questions for Drew or the GSR team?
Again, we do this every month, and we'll do it again in January. Love chatting with you all and getting as much information out as we have. I think we'll have a little bit more information in January for everybody.
Yep, and the January meeting will go back to the standard the fourth Sunday night of the month. Excellent. Well, if you don't need to hear from Camp Carpenter, you are welcome to hop off. If you have any questions for any of us, feel free to reach out. I am putting my email in the chat now. And Drew and Garrett's are already there. We'll put Brett and Brendan's in after or once they start talking. So thank you for joining us. And now, thank you, Charlene. So now we're gonna switch over to Camp Carpenter. And before we do that, Phil and I are gonna talk about a really challenging decision and budget decision we made. So in the past, Camp Carpenter has run for a 7-week season, beginning the week June, usually the last week in June, and running until the 2nd week of August. Unfortunately, we had to make the very challenging decision this year to go to a 5-week season. So week 1 at Camp Carpenter this year will begin on July 9th. Is that the right date, Brett? It's close if it's not right. So week 1 at Camp Carpenter will be July 9th. And week 5 will end on August 17th. We will still have 7 weeks of day camp at the camp for Granite Base Camp at Camp Carpenter. So Granite Base Camp's week 1 will be the week of the 4th of July, but we will be closed on the actual 4th of July. So it's a 4-day week for week 1 at Granite Base Camp. And the price reflects that, as does the adventure card discount. So I know that's a lot. I know that that's not what people are excited to hear. I know that messes up Mike Cotterlick's countdown, which he's usually like animated and excited to give us his countdown on these calls. Please know that this decision was not made lightly. And we hope, I met with the camp team a couple of weeks ago now, and we hope that we can get our attendance numbers back up to where they were, to a point where we can go back to a 6 or 7 week season moving forward. What I will also let you know is that we are going to cap each week at I'll give those in just a second, Aaron. We are going to cap each week at approximately 150. If you go to sign up and there's 12 spots left and you have 15 kids, we'll help you out with that. We're not going to be like, nope, you don't fit. But we need to kind of aim for a number that allows us to at least break even. There were several weeks last year where we were definitely not. And so we need to make sure that we're able to do that. If you sign up for week 7, those are soft reservations, so you'll be able to reassign yourself. But that same week is, yeah, so it would be the previous week is the week that we end. No, last year's week 7 is still a viable week for resident camp. So if you sign up for week 7, you're able to still come that week. That'll be week 5. So just to put those dates out again for you, week 1 for resident camp will start on July 9th. And week 5 will end on August 17th. So it will begin on August 11th-ish. And so it will run those 5 weeks. Are there any questions before we go into anything Brett needs to talk about? Is there any questions about that? Oh, when was the end date again? So I've given that. You do not need to update your soft assignments. We will be able to start registering you right after the new year. So soft assignments will become hard assignments right after the new year. If you'd like to let Brett know, I'm sure he'd love to understand, love to have a good idea of numbers. And you can email him. Brett, if you want to put your, actually, if you could email he and Brendan so that everybody can get access to it. That way he can put his and Brendan's email in the chat. Any other questions about the change? Again, please know that this decision was not made with, it was not an easy decision to make. If we need to choose a new week now, what do we do? You can email Brett and Brendan. And if you'd like to give them a soft reservation, but at the same time, the registration for camp should come out by the middle of January. I was actually just waiting for the prices to be approved this week, so I should be able to get it out early, by late this week rather. And you'll be able to deposit as soon as you're ready. So that's the big announcement I have. I don't know if Brett wants to talk about some other things as people kind of process that information and start to ask questions. I'll field those questions as you talk, Brett.
So that being the sort of big structural thing, questions and feedback either tonight or as we go forward, feel free to reach out with those. We'll definitely make sure we put those around through the processes. We're continuing our program planning. We're excited to think about Under the Big Top and Carnival something. I have to do some fancy sketching. Maybe I'll get one of those AI bots to help me make a fancy patch or something. I don't know. It'll be great. Kristen has insisted that there be some animals. We're batting around ideas for different theme activities to do. Right now, we're thinking maybe a movie night with popcorn and cotton candy all around the parking lot or something like that. It could be kind of fun. As well as maybe some free time demos, like we talked about, like a learn to juggle demo today, and we'll keep brainstorming. We'll see what else we come up with. But if you have any ideas to add into that mix, we'd love to hear them because it's always fun. We are still working on the parent guide and with yeah, go ahead.
I'm with Kristen. I want animals too. I'll help you figure it out. We'll make it happen.
Excellent. We'll take that, the traveling farm. And a parent guide, we are working on that with the dates and rates that we have from the e-board this week. We'll start working those in, and this plan is still to try to have at least the draft of that available on January 1st. So I'll press forward with that. I finished concert week at school, so that's done, and so I get to start doing more camp stuff moving forward, which is always a joy. As we are waiting for sort of registration stuff to come online, one thing that you can do to help parents and families be prepared is encourage them to start thinking about getting their med form, especially Part C, filled out now or this time of year or in the next couple of months. Now is an excellent time to schedule a physical to get a Part C filled out rather than waiting until May or June. So definitely worth putting that information out there, and good information for your pack to have year round anyway. We definitely are getting into the throes of hiring. We have most of our admin team sort of tinkering into place, and we're going to be starting interviews in January. So the staff application is online, and if I'm clever, I still have the link pasted. You do. Fantastic. The staff application is online. We're going to try to get the interview schedule, the dates will be available for interviews out sometime this week, so people can start to sign for those and look out for those. Anyone you know, anyone at all over the age of 16, anyone especially over the age of 18 or over the age of 21 who is interested in working at camp, will have day jobs, we'll have overnight jobs, we'll have jobs that are some weeks and jobs that are not other weeks. It's a crazy, kooky mess. I'm gonna have to have a giant calendar to keep track of it all. It will be a joy for everyone who's with me in the office, but we definitely are interested in talking to anyone who is available to help out for all or part of the summer. Have them fill it out or shoot me an email, and we'll talk and we'll see what we can make work. Those are the big blips I had.
So the only question that we have right now is about provisional at Carpenter, and will that count against the 150 cap? The bigger issue for provisional at Carpenter is staffing. We have to cover all of our program areas, especially those that require a certification of some sort, before we can look at having provisional, because they need to be with those kids all day. And so we hope but that's a big hope, to be able to have provisional. We did not have provisional at Carpenter last year for the same reason, because staffing is such a challenge right now. So we'll keep you posted on that one.
If you or anyone you know over the age of 21 is interested in being a provisional Cup Master for part or all of the summer, please reach out. Let us know. We'd be happy to talk to you.
Yes, we are. Jess is like, don't look at me, because Jess knows.
Right.
Jess plays this game in 2 councils, and so the person who holds my position in Massachusetts does the same thing to her. So we understand Jess. We know Jess is a day camp director as well, so we understand. But we are hoping that with a shorter season, we might be able to have some teachers join us for the season, because that was the biggest complaint that we had, is that teachers are so tired right now. And education has been a hard place to be the last several years. And so we're hoping, as all of my non-full-time staff work in education in some capacity, and they're all shaking their heads. And so we're hoping that we'll be able to attract some teachers since we have a shorter season this year. Will the weeks for the other specials like horses be in the GSR guide January 1? Thanks for the early notice of the CC change. Camp promotion for if you're asking for a camp promotion, you're going to want to email Brendan Adams. His email is in the chat. And then theater program, best camp staff were kids involved in theater programs at high schools and colleges. And we actually are working at well, I don't want to I'm not going to say that. Anyway, I'm going to stop myself. We are working on directly recruiting from colleges and participating in college job fairs. Theater is a really good option. And we're also working with outdoor education and recreational management students as well. And we do have paid internships at Daniel Webster as well. So if you have a kiddo who's looking for an internship this summer, we have paid internships as well. So we can work it that way too.
Can I just jump in and say two things? First, I have to agree with Aaron. Yeah, that's for sure. And the second thing is, we've given a little bit of discussion about the cap, and I want to assure people that it's a management tool, but it's not a hard and fast rule. So one of the things we're trying to do is make sure that we don't have huge weeks and then little tiny weeks, because it's a nightmare for staffing for Brett and company. Because on the big weeks last year, we found ourselves shorthanded, and on the smaller weeks, we found ourselves overstaffed. So we're trying to balance that out. But, well, maybe Brett wouldn't say understaffed, but we're trying to just sort of balance that out. But our intent is not to make your life as a unit scheduler a nightmare. So the caps are there just as a management tool for us to see if we can kind of balance that out. So if you need to go on a certain week, we will make that happen for you. Our goal is to make sure everybody gets to go to camp and that our program areas are adequately staffed. So when you get to camp, it's a great experience for everybody. So that, I don't want people to get hung up on that one. And that's the reason for the shortened season too. We just got to compress everybody, and there are certain, I talked about fixed costs. There are certain staff levels that we have to maintain, whether there are 30 kids in camp or 200 kids in camp. We need a minimum staff. So we're trying to balance that out and make that work. So go to camp. If you've got a problem, if we hit that cap and you've got a problem, talk to Brad or Brendan or Allison or me, and we'll get you to camp.
Make the computer do what we want it to.
Yes, thanks for that clarification, Phil. Yeah, the camp is not a block. It's not a hard cap, but we definitely want to try to even things out for ourselves. Are there any other questions? I've been answering in the chat as we can.
Can I talk promos real quick?
Yeah.
So, we're talking about numbers, and I want to hit that cap every week and continue to grow as we have in the past couple of years. We already have camp staffers that have been out to promos already, which is awesome. So if you have not already signed up for that, I will post the link in the chat. If you have, then expect the week before your promo to get an email from me just confirming that the location and time is the same. Like I said, if you haven't, please sign up. We would love to get to every pack. If you are associated or talk with other packs in your area and you're just like, hey, have you signed up for a promo? It's awesome. You should do it. Definitely help us out. We definitely want to get to as many packs as we can to talk up camp and to answer any questions that parents and scouts may have. Yes, you can assume first choice. I've not had too much overlap at this point. If I do, it's going to be a first come, first serve basis. But like I said, I have not had any overlap yet. I'd love to have more.
And Mike, I did see your question about free den chiefs. We did not make any changes from 21 to 22 or 22 to 23 for the number of den chiefs that you can have for free. Jessica.
This is more of a GSR issue than a Carpenter issue, but we have potentially 25 AOLs crossing over to the troop at the end of March. So if they outgo like the early bird date, is there a way for them to get in on that or no?
Yeah, so I sent you a private message there.
Oh, I didn't see it come
options.
through. I'm sorry.
It's okay, and it's way up there now because you asked that question a while ago.
I did.
Yeah, it's all good. I'll answer you verbally because you're probably not alone. So what we suggest is that if they think they're coming, that they deposit, but the discount is only $20. So if they're on the edge, they can still come to camp. The
Right.
cutoff for coming to camp is late May.
Okay.
And even then, if it's like, oh, we've got 2 more, okay, that's fine. I'm just not adding 40 more in
Okay.
June.
I mean,
Um,
we're starting to talk about it at the dens now, even
Yep.
though they're going to be in a troop by then,
Yep.
to try and get it on everyone's calendar. But
Yep.
I know that in the past, depending on which camp you go to, they have to be registered with the troop before you could register them for camp, which sometimes the
our-
paperwork there gets funky.
Yeah, no, our registration system shouldn't be impacted that way.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So you should be able to register them with you.
Thank you.
And if not, like if you try and it won't work and we have to wait till after the deadline, I can work with you on that because you made an attempt. Then I get to make the computer do what I want it to do. Any other questions? Oh, I see one more in the chat. Gotcha. Okay, good. Any other questions for anybody tonight? If you think of a question, as I've said, feel free to send any one of us an email. If it's GSR related, bridge fee is remaining the same. 65, I think it was last year, right? Jessica's shaking her head, so I think that's what we're at. It's remaining the same. We did not make a change to that. Because we did recognize across council, actually, we kept our activity fees flat because we recognized the significant change in attendance fee. Awesome. Well, thank you all. As stated a few times tonight, to those who celebrate Hanukkah, they're probably not on the call, actually, as they're celebrating Hanukkah. But thank you for joining us tonight, and happy Hanukkah. And for those who celebrate Christmas or any other holidays, happy holidays and Merry Christmas. And thank you, Mike. Is that an updated countdown? Excellent. Excellent. I do see a couple more things in the chat. I just want to make sure that we're all set. Yeah, we're all good. So thanks, y'all. Have a great night. I'll fix the technological difficulties, I promise.
Thanks, everyone.
So I moved a couple of people back to the waiting room. If they choose to stay, they can. Eventually I'll close the meeting, but I didn't want to like kick people off if they didn't need to, like, whatever. So that was actually, oh.
You wanna stop the
That was
recording?
actually, oh, right.